Hello, everyone. So, um, as you think about your project and decide what topic you want to do, you should also think about how you're actually going to accomplish it, what it's actually going to look like, and what tool you're going to use to make your infographic. So, we're going to talk a little bit about various tools that you might want to consider. Okay. So, I noticed that on your assignment 3, a couple of you actually did use the Piktochart online tool, which is good. Okay, that can be used. I noticed some of you used, I think, Inkscape, producing an infographic that looked like it would be on an A4 piece of paper, so kind of like a document size, like a page, your regular 8.5 by 11 inch if you're American, or A4 if you're European. But do consider the long style infographic, because many infographics are in that format where it's just kind of tall and skinny, where you just kind of scroll down, it has information, and you just scroll down the infographic and just keep getting more information as you go. So do keep that in mind. It's very rare that you have an infographic that looks like it's the dimensions of a piece of paper. Okay, so that was acceptable on assignment 3, but I don't think it's really appropriate for a real infographic. Okay, so your textbook mentions a few tools on page 306. I'm just going to mention a few others. Okay, among them, again, Piktochart, Visme. So these are the online tools, and I'll just show you quickly what some of those look like. So this is the website of Piktochart, and if you go down, you can kind of see what kind of templates they kind of have, what something that you might use to eventually make an infographic. Here's a minimalist infographic, so you can kind of see where you can kind of lay it out, and you can see that it does have like the dimensions of something that's going to keep being long. So your introduction and then your main content, talking about your different data visualizations here. Maybe you have 1 or 2 data visualizations and maybe some commenting, some context, some talking about the numbers within them. Like some of you mentioned when I showed that heat map, and I said what's missing to turn that into an infographic. A lot of you mentioned like, okay, it might be useful to say something about that visualization just to give it a little bit of a story, give it a little bit of context, right? We see that visualization, but what does it mean? How do we compare it to other things? Okay, so things that you can include, so visualization and maybe some things to accompany it. And then scrolling down further, you might have your social media and designer information and any other concluding elements. Okay, so you can kind of see how that would go. I think very similarly, Visme. Okay, so web page here, and you can see some of the templates they have for infographics, right? Your typical long type infographic where, introduction, nice big title where you can read it, even if it's, all that stuff is minor, right? That's the important stuff. I see that and have like the 5-second rule type thing where I can see, okay, title, infographic, there's information there, and and keep going down from there. So those can definitely be used. Okay. Other things that you might want to consider. The thing with using Piktochart and Visme is it is quite easy because they give you templates. You just kind of say, I want things to go here, I want things to go there. But you are a little bit limited into where you can move things and what kind of colors and stuff like that. So you say, okay, I want that kind of over here, and I want something else over there. You can't, it's kind of hard to modify a template. So you can't always get exactly what you want. So if you are kind of more on the creative side, when you want real flexibility of how you want to lay out different things, then these things might not be for you because they don't give you quite as much freedom, I would say. Okay, so moving along to some of the others, for example, a Prezi. Okay, so a Prezi is a very nice way to have like an overall look, okay, and then have information in different spots. And it also makes for a very good zooming infographic, or clickable even. So if you're not looking for like a static one and you want to just try out doing something a little bit that's different than a static, okay, maybe you want to experiment a little bit, which is cool, right? Because there's so many static ones. If you want something that's a little bit different than other people, you might want to play with a Prezi. And I'll show you some of those. Like I already showed you the one in class where I showed you like how you can make a CV, but this goes same for an infographic. I might have like a big data visualization here. Maybe I have, again, that heat map of those cases of coronavirus, and you can actually zoom into different sections. So here is the coronavirus in New York, and you can zoom into New York to kind of see different information about that. And then maybe here is like Los Angeles. I guess Los Angeles would be way over here, but yeah, you could zoom into Los Angeles and get information about Los Angeles. So it makes a pretty cool zooming infographic in that way. And it's not so hard to do. Basically is what you do is you make your initial graphic that you could do on Inkscape or any other tool that can make a data visualization, even Excel, I guess, if you're starting off with a chart. But Excel doesn't make the most exciting looking data visualizations. But when you do get a data visualization and you have it in a PNG format or an SVG format, okay, be careful with PNG that you have high enough quality that if I stick it on here, it's not going to look pixelated, okay? And once you have that infographic, then you can zoom into different points in the infographic and you just put bubbles. I'll show you another one that a student attempted a number of years ago. Okay, so trying to make an infographic about this Monet, which is the actual hair product. And she actually wanted to give information about the hair product. You don't have to do that. You can make it anything about hair. But she decided to go with the product itself. And it looks kind of cool because you can see, okay, I'm looking at this product, the name of it, and I can have information. Now, there's a lot of things missing from this infographic. Just kind of ran out of time in the end. But there's definitely different things that she probably could have added to make it a little bit better. But anyways, you can see how it's kind of cool. It is a zooming infographic where I can zoom into different parts. I guess I could just play it. Right, and yeah, and this is how it's meant to be viewed. So an infographic that kind of like goes from thing to thing, and yeah, it's kind of cool. It has like that big overall look to it. So there's using a Prezi, which you might want to consider. It can be pretty cool. Okay, other things that you can consider, for example, using a PowerPoint. Okay. Now, a lot of people think, okay, PowerPoint, that means making a presentation. And, an infographic in a lot of ways is essentially a presentation, okay? And, sorry about that, my record button kind of disappeared. I was kind of panicking for a second. But anyways, like I was saying, an infographic in a lot of ways is a presentation because you're presenting a story, right? And you can set up your PowerPoint to present the story of your infographic. Now, I set up something really quick, and I'll show you how it would kind of flow as an infographic, okay? So you can kind of see how it's kind of set up in that long fashion. If I were to kind of like paste these all together or tape them all together and not have these gaps, you can kind of see how this infographic would actually be just one long infographic. Okay, and what's cool about this is after you present, you can actually turn it into a video, so it can be a video infographic, and it's actually fairly easy to do. When you go into your slideshow here, you can actually record your slideshow, and I'm not going to hit record, but I'll kind of show you what it would look like, the presentation, if I were to record. So if you were to record, it would just go into presentation mode, and then your presentation would just be recorded as you click through it. So I'm just going to be silent for a second just so you can see how the infographic would actually flow. Okay, so you can actually see how that would flow as an infographic video. Now, you might even put background music. If you want, you could even narrate on top of it. Now, I know probably a lot of students aren't very comfortable with narrating and they're kind of conscious about their voice or whatever, but I've noticed that actually some students have really good voices. And I even mentioned one student in the past, like, you have a very good narrator voice that actually sounds like a person from a documentary. And if you have a voice like that, you might even consider narrating your video infographic. Okay, so if you're interested in that, do let me know, and I'll give you more information of how to turn a PowerPoint into a video. Okay. Other things. Inkscape and Illustrator. Illustrator, a lot of you don't have, but Inkscape is very similar, and you can make your entire infographic in Inkscape, okay? Or what you can do is use your Inkscape to make parts of your infographic, which will be imported into your other tools. So maybe you make your data visualization. Maybe you want to say 8 people out of 10 are really stupid or whatever, and you have your data visualization using those icons of men, and you color 8 of them and the other 2 are black, so 8 out of 10. Okay, and then once you're done with that data visualization, maybe you want to take that, save it as a PNG or an SVG, and then kind of bring it into PowerPoint or Visme or whatever. Okay, or if you are making your entire infographic in Inkscape, okay, I'll bring that up. So often when you start with Inkscape, you might end up with start with a document that looks like this, and you might start adding various parts of your infographic, your title, and then data visualization, and some explanation and comments and something else in conclusion, or not conclusion. Let's say I have some more stuff. Some more, and then I say, oops, I ran out of space. I need this longer because I need other space. I need to add stuff and a conclusion. You can actually change the dimensions of this artboard, or I don't know what it's called in Inkscape. In Illustrator, it's called an artboard. Anyways, you can actually change the document size. So if you need it to be bigger, you just go here, and you get this window that pops up, and you can change it to, as you can see, it extended, and oh, that's not in the right place. So very easy. Just go in here, Control A, right? Select all, and you can move that stuff up like so. And then you can keep going with adding your stuff. So other data visualizations, yada yada, and then conclusion. And then I notice I have too much space, so I can go and edit this size again and kind of cut it off to the size that I want. Okay. So yeah, your general format, I would say, for an infographic is your tall, skinny type infographic. It's very rare that you have like the A4 size of an infographic. It's usually tall and long. Okay, and one last way that I want to mention is you might consider Microsoft Word, but there are many disadvantages to that. Now, Word isn't really meant for making infographics, for one thing, okay, and because it's just broken up into pages, okay, and we don't want multiple page infographics. But what you can do is you can actually change your view into a web layout. And what that does is now my document just kind of continues going on and on. Right? I can copy and paste, and you can see that it just keeps going down, and it never breaks the page. Okay, and you have just one continuous document. And if you were to do that, what you would want to do is when you go File and Save As, okay, and you don't want to save it as a doc. You want to save it as a web page. All right, sorry about that if that suddenly cut off. I had my 15-minute limit and I had to restart. But I was saying that when you make your, if you make your infographic in a Word document, when you save, do save as a web page, HTML. And then when you view it, I guess I might as well do this. Let's save this on the, sure, documents, save as web page. Save. Okay, and let's go to my documents. And you can see here, let's open with Firefox, something like that. And you can see here, I have basically a web page that would essentially be my infographic. Of course, in the Word document, it's very easy to add a title. You can add text boxes if you know how to add text boxes and organize these, make your images in the center and organize them as you like. Okay. Now, Word isn't really meant to make web pages. In fact, when you actually look at the code of the web page, it's horrendous. But this is not a web design class. So if you do decide to do this, I think I probably would accept it. But making sure that your visualizations have been made properly. That's basically what I'd be looking at if you made it in Word, and the overall look of the design. If you were to let's say plan this as a website, because a lot of times, as we have seen in class, a lot of the examples of infographics, the infographic is actually a web page itself, where it has the title, and then it has the graphic, and then as you scroll down, it tells you more information about it. And at the bottom, there's like social media links and share and follow us and links to other web pages and whatnot. Okay, so that's definitely a possibility. So let me know if you want to consider something like that, and I'll help you out through that. Okay, so whatever you decide, think about it. Think of the pros and cons, how you would like to do it, and just kind of keep me updated through the process. Like the first thing of keeping me updated will probably come in your creative brief of how you want to do that. And you may have already submitted your creative brief, which is fine, but as we said before, creative brief is kind of like a negotiation process, so things can and will change in that process. So don't worry about if you wrote something in your creative brief, if you had imagined something before, but you imagined something differently later on, that's completely fine too, and that often happens. Okay, so do keep me updated on the process, and we can talk about it, talk about the different tools, how to do things, and we'll kind of work through it together. And I think things will shape up nicely of how you're going to put together this final infographic.